I'm worried that this won't be resolved, and I'm worried that I may not be able to like move into college. I may like have to just stay home for like my first semester, or maybe like my first year in college.
It's definitely been hard to not see like my grandparents who we're really close with, and my aunt and them who've been having a hard time. It's definitely hard when people are having a hard time and like you have to stay in quarantine.
I don't know if I'm going to school on time next year. I kind of doubt it at this point.
A lot of people's human nature is being shown in this, and like in good ways and bad ways, like how people bought out all the masks to resell at like inflated prices, and then there's people who are using their skills to make masks for free and distribute those at no cost aside from their own time. So there's a lot of upsides and downsides.
I really enjoy going to the theater, and Central Square Theater was one of the like venues that I went to a lot. And then one day we got there a bit early, or the show was starting late, and we just wandered back to the NuVu space, saw one of the flyers for the summer program, and we just thought, this seems cool. And then I did the summer program and I loved it. And then I ended up spending 4 years there.
NuVu is, for me, I think it's a place where young people come to interface with the real world in a number of ways, in playful ways, in earnest ways, and mostly in very meaningful ways. And I think this is what brings them in. And I think through the process of, creative design process and working on problems, sitting on them, thinking about them, trying and failing, I think they leave this place with a belief that they are not outsiders, that they are active agents in the spaces that they come from, and that they are people who can sort of enact measurable change in the environments and neighborhoods that they live in, or even sort of the greater world that they'll go on to live in.
We're really doing things that matter here. Like, I can't tell you about the American Revolution, but I can tell you how to make a mask that works. And I'm sure a mask that works is going to be a lot more advantageous to know about than the American Revolution.
Even though it's not like overt damage being done, but like over time, just I've noticed my mental health deteriorating, and my friends have noticed that. So my current idea is to have a game in which you play as a senior citizen, independent living, who just has to deal with the challenges of everyday life in the pandemic. And I think that character is sort of emblematic of the struggle that everybody's going through right now, but maybe more so because it's already a group that tends to be socially isolated and, separated from the rest of the population. So I could be imagining that they would be suffering from the negative effects even more than everybody else.
I've been working on creating a film that will be documenting sort of my personal journey in adapting to the new normal that was set in place by the whole coronavirus crisis. First, just trying to adapt and create a new normal for myself, and then sort of the process of that falling apart a bit and just sort of going into a bit of a downward spiral, not really functioning fully in all of this, and just sort of like going to a pretty weird headspace, and then eventually coming back out of that and then properly adjusting to the new normal after I had that time to sort of process all the crazy emotions that were going on in that shift.
I'm here in this space with only my family, and now I'm starting to think about memory and space and how that relates to my family and how that relates to where I am now. I've lived in a few different places, so I did like an architectural plan view of the first home that I remember living in. I just looked at that plan and I just thought of like memories, and a lot of those memories actually were associated with different spaces. So my project is going to be both different visualizations of those memories that are like inset into the plan in different ways. And then also in my current home, I'll be creating like architectural pieces that are inspired by that process of visualizing memory.
My capstone project is like a series of hexagonal shapes that are designed to make Zoom more engaging. Because of the coronavirus, we're mostly like stuck at home, and we always have to do these like long, boring Zoom calls. So one of the hexagons is a feature where I can notify different coaches. I always have an issue of like asking for help when I need it. So it just quickly like selects a different coach, and then you're straight to talking to that person. And then the other one is the mute one. It has a physical interaction where you have like a cork and a base, where you can just have cork and then you put it on top and then you're muted, like no one can hear you.
My project is basically to recognize the shortage and lack of innovation of PPE in this pandemic. The mask that I'm making to combat the spread of coronavirus with like filters and seals can also be applied to when you're sick and you might need to go into work. So it can sort of have multiple reasons to be in your wardrobe, of course, so there's multiple applications. Also, I think there's a lot of fashion value since it'll be long term. If you can make it look like a fashion item that just happens to be very useful, the whole idea around personal protection can change. The reason for having it sort of be a face covering is that the virus can enter your body through your eyes and ears. Less the ears, but the eyes are pretty important. And I think if you can sort of isolate your face, your orifices from the rest of your body, so, you know, this can't happen if it's covering your whole face.
I am working on creating a public installation like for here in Iceland that showcases the issue of the melting glaciers. I'm like primarily focusing on like glaciers here in Iceland. They're like very dear to my heart, and like being home in Iceland during the pandemic, I have been thinking about the state of Iceland and like where it's gonna go. So I wanted to like represent the melting glaciers in some way and like bring the glaciers to the urban environment, because people aren't like faced with it every day. Diving more deeply into it, I want to show the history and knowledge, because these aren't just giant pieces of ice that's melting, but it's also the loss of knowledge and history that goes along with them. Because these glaciers are storing like data on previous eruptions, weather patterns, and even still house some like natural gases from like thousands and thousands of years ago. Also, that speaks to the bigger issue of climate change and that action needs to be taken.
I really wish we had graduation, because I'm worried that I won't be able to get one once the time, like once everything settles back together. But hopefully we do.
I am so sad about it.
I like to stay optimistic, so I keep out hope that we'll have a graduation ceremony at some point.
I'm not a big ceremony guy.
It's all right.
Honestly, I'm so bummed. Like, NuVu has been such this incredibly impactful part of my life. I feel like my life really started at NuVu, and I became sort of the person that I am, the person that I want to be at and because of NuVu. And then I just like, I feel so comfortable there. where I know NuVu super well, NuVu knows me super well. I can just be myself and really just thrive, really go for the things that I want, be around the people that I like. NuVu was really the first place where I sort of started making connections with people and really started to create extremely valuable, like rich relationships with these people that I can't imagine living without. And it's just made everything much more rich, much more worth doing.